enough said. Look, if I sound a little different today, it's because I had my front two teeth pulled yesterday. I'm not going to show you what they look like. You'll probably see anyways, but I just want to know that. Anyways, I wanted to call the meeting to order. And so first on before the agenda is a roll call of committee members first. Allie, you're on? I can see you.
Yep, I'm here.
And I can see Stephanie. What about Ann? Is Ann O'Gork on?
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Good morning, Ann.
Morning.
Any additional board members who would like to identify themselves?
Hey, John, it's Jerry DeLong.
Hi, Jerry. I can see Jeff.
Michelle Smianik.
Okay, so you identified me instead. Thanks.
I like your red shirt. Anyways, any other board members? Okay, seeing none. First item on the agenda is the approval of the board, the committee minutes. There was one correction. Ann O'Gork wasn't at the call, so she was taken off of that. So I have a motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Now, the next item on the agenda is the, I see that.
Good morning, committee members and board members. My name is Don Arvetti. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Maintenance. I'm here this morning to present an overview of PRT's efforts to achieve our zero emission fleet plan goal by 2045. Next slide, Cheryl. I'm sorry. Thank you. The high-level plan focuses on a fleet transition timeline as we phase in vehicles and infrastructure to meet as zero-emission fleet grows, factoring in various parameters such as range and charging times. Focus on infrastructure upgrades as we roll out to additional locations and continue to assess bus-to-charger ratios to meet operational needs, and also looking at facility improvements for electrification, such as charger utilization, as well as charger type, and as well as those bus to charger ratios as we move forward to assess our operation. It focuses on continued research and testing. This includes a goal of testing up to 10 hydrogen fuel cell buses to determine range and other operational capabilities in our region. So it also include continued analysis of items such as cost per mile between hydrogen, electric as we test, and other performance comparisons between the various fleet types. How all these options fit into our operational planning requirements, as well as improve the quality of the communities we serve. Plan will focus on items such as training, fleet integration for parts and maintenance, as well as equity. All these items will factor into future decision-making as we proceed. The initial plan also takes a high-level look at the cost of implementing a zero-emissions fleet. Next slide, please. Thank you. So how do we plan on getting there? As far as the fleet transition, the chart on the left, in addition to the 8 battery electric buses we currently have, and the additional 15 as part of next year's vehicle procurement in 2023, we'll begin to implement zero-emission vehicles in rotating years. This will allow time for our facilities to be scaled up with the appropriate infrastructure. The plan is the alternate years from 2025 through 2032 as we continue to retire and then procure vehicles. From 2032 on, everything purchased would be some type of zero-emission vehicle to achieve our goal by 2045. The graph on the right represents our total current fleet. The gray bars are current diesel buses, and the blue bars would represent a scale up of the zero-emission vehicles through the life of the current plan. The red line represents corresponding reduction in diesel fuel consumption as the fleet transitions to zero emissions. Next slide, please, Cheryl. Moving forward, so how do we wrap it all together to make a successful plan? As we worked on the initial plan, we were meeting with various departments to gather information, but ultimate rollout and success of this effort will depend on a joint coordinated effort of various groups to ensure the timeline pieces stay on track. Infrastructure upgrades, continued route assessment and planning, operational maintenance training, funding and procurement. As you can see, all these focus on multiple departments working together to achieve our goal. I expect the plan to continue to be a living document with modifications as we work through this transition. Next slide, please, Cheryl. That's hard to read on that. So the $1 million question or $1 billion question, taking a high level look at the costs, these represent assumptions based on our experiences today and are also inclusive of the planned timeline through 2045. The column on the far left provides a baseline estimate if we proceed ahead with a current diesel fleet. The middle column is a transition plan, initial cost assumptions to meet our zero emission goal by 2045. The right column includes estimated costs to test hydrogen fuel cell buses, as well as the estimated operational costs through the life of that vehicle. The hydrogen fuel cell column on the right, those aren't necessarily in addition costs. Those will be subtracted out from the zero emission plan cost in the middle. We were just breaking out the plan focused on what it would cost to test that pilot of vehicle. So we started to dig into that. Steering committee and group would also focus on other funding opportunities, such as LONO and other federal programs to assist with the incremental costs and infrastructure costs, minimizing the impacts of the transition. Basically, the impacts will be the incremental costs at the bottom of the middle column. And all these numbers were based on today's current fleet of approximately 730 buses as a baseline, but would fluctuate as the fleet changes. Next slide, please, Cheryl. The items in yellow, this one we can see. The items in yellow are the steps taken to date. The blue items will cover future progress as the steering committee moves forward with goal setting, analyzing data from the current and future electric vehicles, as well as the hydrogen pilot. Analyzing data, I'm sorry, page. They will also incorporate details such as information from the facilities master plan once completed for infrastructure rollout, phasing to the locations, deeper dive into the cost benefit analysis of the different types of vehicles, determine the best path, whether it be electric, hydrogen, or a combination, as well as a lot of other items to keep the transition moving forward to meet our goal. Thank you. Does the board have any questions?
Thank you very much, Don. Sorry for the confusion in the beginning. Anyways, what I'd like to start with is now the current battery electric buses that we have, those are considered zero emission.
Yes.
Okay, so we've already started that process a couple of years ago. All right,
yes, sir.
Are there any questions of committee members of Don?
I was just wondering, do you know what the facility requirements are for the hydrogen buses? As you start looking into that a little bit more?
So we begin to take a high level look at that. We actually just recently took a trip over to Akron to our friends at SARTA. They're running a 12 bus fleet of hydrogen vehicles over there. So we've started looking at high level costs. They don't make it there. They have it shipped in. They spent about $2 million on a facility to fuel their vehicles. It would depend how it fits here, but we've taken some very high level looks at that, yes.
The additional questions from committee members?
Yeah. So I have a number of things. First of all, Don, thanks for presenting this. I think this is great that we're getting these updates now on a more regular basis with respect to alternative fuel sources. And I think that this is a key strategic goal for the board we've set. And so I'm glad to see that we're pursuing it. I also think that there's plenty of federal money. I assume that we have our folks looking at the federal funds opportunities because much of the federal funding is going to clean energy projects. And then
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, lastly, I was going to say, so you can answer everything once. Is anybody from our group participating in the Clean Energy Conference that's going to be here on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd? Or do we have people registered for that?
So I'll start backwards. The Clean Energy Conference, yes, I know David Huffaker will attend that. I have a conflict and can't, but we will have folks in attendance at that event. In regards to the funding, yes, we've been looking at it, and that's also one of the factors we put this initial plan together. FTA back at the beginning of the year put out a Dear Colleague letter, which helped give a guideline for funding opportunities and how to be successful in future grants and loan applications. And the plan touched on 6 items, one of them being having a zero emission transition plan. So we've completed the first step. Looking at equity and other routes so we will write all those into our grant opportunities moving forward. So we've looked at that as we're moving forward, and we're going to use those techniques applying for future grants to be more successful.
Are we engaging our lobbyists in this regard as well, or federal lobbyists?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, sir,
Thanks,
Mr.
Don.
Chair, we are, and I would note that Akron was able to purchase part of their bus purchase, and also their hydrogen fueling station came back from federal funding, which the FTA handled when our executive director of SPC was at FTA. So Vince Valdez is very well acquainted with that, and we've already begun the process of liaising with them to make sure that we're picking their brains and that we're able to work on something more regional for adding hydrogen. So it's an excellent question, and we are working toward that.
John, thanks for your benefit. Just because a vehicle is electric or has a battery does not mean it's qualified necessarily as clean energy. And maybe a zero emission, but what it takes to get the lithium for the batteries is not environmentally friendly. So we're in a much better situation with the alternative fuels that that Don's been looking at for us. So I congratulate Don on that.
Well, thank you for that, because I was wondering about that, Jeff, so thanks for that. I did have a question on our, on access, our paratransit vehicles. Is there anything being done in that area, Don? And maybe you're not able to answer that question, but I'm wondering.
I can't speak to the access piece, Mr. Tegg, but I can say, and I didn't mention it today, but we are also looking and planning on transitioning our non-revenue vehicles as well. But I can't answer the access piece this morning.
It'd be good if I could get an answer on that. I'd like to know how we're doing with access, because obviously they have a lot of vehicles out there, and there's been talk about electric vehicles and low floor access vehicles also. So there's been conversation about that over time. So I'm curious about what we're doing with that.
We will definitely inquire.
Okay, thank you very much, Don. Are there any additional questions of committee members or board members?
Mr. Tegg, I just have a quick comment. Mr. Rivetti, thank you so much for this presentation. And I agree with Chair Letwin. You know, this is an exciting thing for us to share our plan. And we have been working towards this plan. And now we can see that there's major steps that we have in our plan and sharing it with our community. It's a great thing. So thank you very much. Grateful and appreciative here. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we've worked hard internally over the summer. We look forward to rolling it out.
Thank you. Are there any stakeholders on the call who have questions of Dawn? Okay, seeing no additional questions. Thank you again,
Thank you,
Dawn, for your presentation. And the next item is the adjournment of the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned, and next up is the Finance Committee, right? Or is that right about that, I guess?
Yep, we'll give everybody a minute to switch their agendas over. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee for September 12th, 2022. First item is to conduct a roll call. I'll start with my committee members. Board Member Liptak, are you here?
Jen's not able to be here today.
Oh, okay, thank you. Representative Davis? And Board Member DeLon.
Good morning.
Morning. If there are any other board members present, could you please identify yourselves?
Jeff Letwin.
Lori Miskorsky. Stephanie Turman.
Michelle Smianik.
John Tagg. Oh, sorry, John Tagg.
Okay, thank you. All right, our first agenda item is approval of minutes of the July 21st Finance Committee meeting. Do I have any comments or revisions? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, our resolution for consideration this morning is authorization to enter into an agreement to provide armored car and cash management services. Peter.
Good morning, Madam Chair and other board members. So this PRT requires a contractor to collect its daily cash from TVM service centers and also the bus and rail facilities. So we, according to procurement practice, put out an RFP. And we only received one response. A survey was conducted and contacting other companies that are in this business. And it was found that our efforts were reasonable and also that the scope of the RFP was appropriate and not overly restrictive. So there was an evaluation committee put together to review the response of Brinks Incorporated. This resolution for Brinks would be for a 3-year period with 2 option years at the sole discretion of the Port Authority. And it would be for a not to exceed amount of $3 million for the initial 3-year period. Can I answer any questions regarding this?
How does the current price compare to what we had been paying previously?
Now, pre-pandemic, we were about $750,000 per year. And some of the drivers to this increase are that there's a potential fuel surcharge and also as part of the BRT rollout that there might be additional TVMs that need to be serviced. So I would expect that we will probably pay less than the $1 million a year. There's been some reduction in fuel over the past couple of months or whatever. So there's a little bit of wiggle room in there to accommodate potential additional TVMs to the system, and then also if there's a fuel surcharge.
Okay.
Any other questions from committee or board members?
Hey, just wanted to comment. This is Austin Davis. I'm here. I came in a little late.
Thank you.
I should mention Brinks Incorporated is the incumbent company that we're currently using.
Okay, hearing no further questions, do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I guess I'll have to act as a committee member. I'll second.
No, I'll second it.
Okay.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Thank you. Okay, and our last agenda item for today is the review of the July and August financial statements.
Thank you very much. So for the month of July, our total operating income was $4.44 million, which was $1.2 million below budget. Our total operating income for that month was $475,000 lower than the previous fiscal year for the month of July. Our expenses for the month of July were $7.5 million below budget, with every expense category below budget. Our total expenses for July of 2023 versus fiscal 2022 were $136,071 lower. Our subsidies for the month of July were about $95,000 above budget for that month. And our subsidy for July of 2023 versus 2022 was $247,350 higher than the previous fiscal year. Excuse me. Now moving on for the August results, our total operating income for August was $5,914 over budget. Our passenger revenue was $84,130 below budget. Our total operating income from a year-to-date perspective is still $1.23 million below budget. And that's primarily due to the lower passenger revenues that I alluded to for the month of July. Total expenses for the month of August were $4.76 million below budget and are $12.3 million below budget for the fiscal year. Expense levels in most categories remain low this early in the fiscal year. Our subsidies for the month were $260,071 over budget and $355,299 over budget for the fiscal year. Now, from a year-over-year perspective, through the first 2 months of the year, our total operating income is approximately $404,000 higher than last fiscal year, which is about a 4.3% increase. Our passenger revenues are $238,507 lower than last fiscal year. Now that's being offset by higher advertising revenue. Our investment income with the increase in interest rates is significantly higher than last fiscal year. And also we had higher access shared ride revenues. Our total expenses through August are $1.56 million higher than last fiscal year. And that's predominantly due to, excuse me, higher materials and supplies of about $1.8 million. That's the main primary contributor. And a lot of that is due to we're paying slightly higher diesel fuel than we did last fiscal year. And also the materials line item in particular is higher for the first 2 months of this fiscal year. Now our total subsidy year over year is $32.6 million lower than last fiscal year. And we do await still the July and August payment from PennDOT for state operating assistance, which we've been in communications with them, and it should be forthcoming very shortly. Next slide, please. So the operating reserve, we began the month of August with $135.9 million in operating reserves. We had cash receipts of approximately $32 million in the form of a portion of our operating assistance and various grant capitalizations as well as passenger revenues. We had cash outflows related to salary and wages, benefits, services, materials, and supplies of approximately $41.8 million. So we ended the month of August with an operating reserve of approximately $126.1 million. Can I answer any questions on the July or August financial statement?
Any questions from the committee or other board members?
It's John. Maybe you mentioned this, Peter. Where do we stand with the what I refer to as COVID dollars?
We just did another invoice a few weeks ago that is attributable to the fiscal 22, and that gave us a total of approximately $58 million in usage for fiscal 2022. And I don't have the exact amount, but I believe we're still slightly over $300 million in unspent CARES, CARISA, and ARPA funding.
Thank you, Peter.
Any other questions?
I can update the board too on the exact amount of the remaining federal stimulus dollars. get you that exact number.
Okay. All right, thank you, Pete.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
All right, that was our final agenda item. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And I'll second. Thank you. We stand adjourned. See you next month.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Performance Oversight Committee. Just take a second and adjust your papers, and then we're going to move into our meeting. Okay, it is 8:56 a.m. and I'm going to call the Performance Oversight meeting to order. So the first item is roll call. Representative Austin Davis, are you present?
Yes.
And Representative Migorsky, are you present?
Yes. Good
Very
morning.
good. And if other board members could please announce their name for the record.
Jeff Letwin.
Ann O'Gorick.
Montag.
Ally Doyle.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And I just have a recent arrival of my own here. So we will keep Miss Fiona quiet here for a second. The second item on our agenda is approval of our minutes from the July 21st, 2022 meeting of Performance Oversight. Do I have any questions or corrections for the minutes? Hearing none, could I have an approval for the minutes for July 22?
So moved.
Do I have a second? I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, minutes are approved. Item number 3, and I see that Mr. Tony Trona is all ready to go with our resolution. So first item is awarding of bids. Mr. Trona, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members, board members. I have 7 items for your review and presentation to the full board for approval. All of our bids were publicly advertised and e-business documents were distributed. The first is leased operation of WABASH parking facility. This is a change order to a contract. At our September 2020 meeting, the board authorized the authority to enter into a contract with PPG Public Parking to lease the authority-owned WABASH HOV parking facility located on West Carson Street to provide all operational day-to-day maintenance of services for public parking at this facility. Now, the initial base term of the contract was for a period of 2 years through December 31, 2022, for a total rent amount of $156,000 payable to PPG over a 2-year term. There are 3 one-year option periods available to the authority to extend the contract with set escalation rentals if these options are exercised. To date, the contractor has satisfactorily provided the operational and maintenance of services required under the contract. At this time, the staff is requesting to exercise the first 1-year option to extend the term of the contract through December 31 of 2023 for a total rental amount of $96,000 payable to PPG. It should be noted that due to continuing significant impacts from COVID-19 pandemic on parking garage and lot utilization in downtown Pittsburgh and North Shore areas, that some rents otherwise due under the lease have been partially forgiven by the authority, and those forgiven rents have been reimbursed to the authority operating budget via COVID-19 stimulus funds. So our recommendation at this time that the contract be amended with PPG Public Parking to exercise first 1-year option period to extend the term of the contract through December 31, 2023 in the total amount of $96,000. The staff has determined that the rental amount is fair and reasonable and consistent with the anticipated revenues of the budget. Number 2, rock salt bulk. 3 firms accepted our invitation. 3 bids were received for the purchase of rock salt over a 3-year period. So our recommendation that the contract be awarded to the low bidder, which was American Rock Salt Company, LLC, estimated amount $1,357,700. This price represents an 18% increase over the previous contracted price for these materials 3 years ago. We had good bidder participation. The second bidder came in at $1.491 million. The third bidder came in at 1.492 million, and we're awarding at $1.35 million. Number 3, LRV split disc brake rotors. 2 firms accepted our invitation. 2 bids were received for these split disc brake rotors for PRTs like rail fleet. The lowest bidder, High Tech Enterprises, proposed a product that did not meet our specification. Our recommendation is that we award the contract to Kenora Brake Company, an estimated amount of $218,000. High Tech bid did not meet our specification. Their bid price came in at $191,000, which is a difference of $27,000 to our awarded price, which really wasn't a surprise to me because this is a Kenora Brake product and they're the manufacturer. Number 4, ready-to-use coolant antifreeze. 3 firms accepted, 3 bids were received for the authority's coach fleet over a 2-year period. It's our recommendation that the contract be awarded to the low bidder, PPC Lubricants, an estimated amount of $359,100 over a 2-year period. This price represents a 15% increase over the previous contracted price for this item 2 years ago. Again, we had good bidder participation. The second bidder came in at $373,000. We're awarding at $359,000. The third bid was significantly higher.
A.
Number 5, synthetic automatic transmission fluid. 3 firms accepted, 3 bids were received for this automatic transmission fluid for the coach fleet over a 1-year period. The lowest bidder, AJL Project Service, was unable to provide product information that was required in the specification and therefore not eligible for award. There's our recommendation that the contract be awarded to Brentag Lubricants Northeast, estimated amount of $256,230 over a 1-year period. This price represents a 19% increase from the previous contracted price 2 years ago. The project services, they did not provide specification information that detailed the testing of their transmission fluid. And the transmission fluid, obviously, as our operations guys can talk about, is something very vital to keep the transmission going. So we have to make sure that the product they're supplying meets our specification. Their price was $157,500, which is a difference of $98,000 to what we're recommending as the purchase. Number 6 is asbestos-free brake block assemblies. 1 firm accepted the invitation. 1 bid was received for the purchase of these brake blocks over a 2-year period. So our recommendation that the contract be awarded to Fraser Gauge Company, estimated amount of $352,455.60. As part of our procedure, when we get 1 bid, we do a single bid survey. The single bid survey reflected a couple of things. First off, one of the major players that I thought would bid this product, Keystone, was unable to bid it because they're in the process of being purchased by another company. Other responses were they could not supply the product as specified, and 3 other responses came in as they could not get bonded or they refused to purchase a bond to supply us with brakes. Again, that's the requirement under our Second Class Port Authority Act. We have to require a bond for these parts. Number 7, CRP-ARTICULATED bus bellows. 2 firms accepted the invitation. 2 bids were received for these bellows over a 2-year period. It's our recommendation that the award be to the lowest bidders, which was Dynatech Manufacturing for 10 line items, estimated amount of $606,604. And Aftermarket Parts Company, 8 line items, estimated amount of $274,558.10. And these prices represent a 15% increase for these products 2 years ago. That concludes my report. Do you have any questions?
I have no questions for you, Mr. Trona. Usually you give us a little gift in there where there's a decrease on some items, but I'm not seeing that little gift today. I'm just seeing some increases. So I guess this is what's occurring these days. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Any board, any committee members have any questions for Mr. Trona on these items?
Good morning, Mr. Trona. I
Good
always
morning.
have an interesting question for you. What is an articulated bus bellows?
Don, can you help me explain the details of that one?
Good morning. It's the unarticulated bus. It's the gray, I'll call it fabric that you see between the front and the back half. It comes in multiple pieces. As the buses age and go over dips and wear, excuse me, have wear, we'll find degradation in the bottoms and sometimes in the sides that we need to just replace those bellows. But it's the accordion type piece in the middle of the articulated buses.
I suspected that, but I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Don, because I would have just said the accordion thing as well, but I didn't know if that would get across real well.
Accordion thing works.
Any other questions from committee members? If not, moving to questions from board members, other board members for Mr. Trona. Hearing no questions, can I have a motion to move this forward to the full board?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Trona.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Our second item today under resolutions, B, authorization to extend agreements for temporary technical and clerical support services. Ms. Inez Colon, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. The resolution that you see before you is to authorization to extend the agreement for temporary technical and clerical support services. In August of 2019, Port Authority of Allegheny County, DBA, Pittsburgh Regional Transit released an RFP for said services, which would be utilized on an as-needed basis to address absences, vacancies, and additional workload. In November 2019, we awarded the services to a pool of temporary agencies, Infogeny, DiskWriter, Global Solutions Group, RadGov Incorporated, and Atrium Staffing LLC. And I'd like to mention that all of them, with the exception of DiskWriter, are DBE firms. The agreement was for an initial term of 3 years with the option to extend the term 2 additional years with a not to exceed amount of $1 million. PRT has determined at this time it is in our best interest to exercise the first option year and extend the agreement to November 30, 2023 with no increase to the not to exceed amount. Madam Chair, I respectfully request that you forward this resolution to the full board. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Colon. I have no questions. Do other board members have questions? Ms. Colon?
Just a clarification on DiskWriter. They have no DBE component?
At this time, given our DBE department, they said at this time they don't meet the criteria or the certification for a DBE.
Thanks, Ellen.
Any other questions? Hearing no questions, I'm going to ask for a motion to move this forward to the full board. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, please state aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much, Ms. Colon.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are at the end of our agenda, and I would ask for a motion to adjourn performance oversight.
So moved.
Second, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We'll see you Friday.
Jennifer's not on the call, right?
She's jumping
No,
on.
I'm on the call. Is my committee up next?
Yes.
Jeff, if you don't mind, since I'm driving, do you mind chairing the committee on my behalf and I'll just participate?
Oh, okay, sure.
I apologize. It was appointment this morning that I couldn't miss for my child, and that happened. So I apologize when I'm in the car on the phone, but I think it'd be better if Jeff ran the meeting for me, okay?
No problem. I will call the meeting of the Technology Committee to order and ask for the committee members who are present to participate, to acknowledge their participation. We hear Jen Liptak on. Other committee members?
This is Lori Mizgorski.
Thanks, Lori. Anybody else? Okay, and then I think the other board members that are present, I see John Tague, I see Michelle. Ally was on. Are you still on, Ally? Okay, Jerry, are you still on? Okay, any other board members who I haven't identified? Stephanie? Austin, you still on? Okay, well, with that, we'll go on to approval of the minutes of the July 21st meeting. May I have a motion for the approval of those minutes?
So moved.
Their second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, we'll go to proposed resolutions and the awarding of bids. Tony Trona, you're up.
Thank you. Good morning again. I have one item for your review and presentation to the full board for approval. ISDN Telecommunications Services, this is on a state schedule. Commonwealth Department of General Services has a purchasing program and awarded a contract to Verizon covering ISDN services. This contract is effective October 31, 2019 through December 31, 2025. The authority wishes to purchase ISDN services under the terms and conditions of the state schedule CoStar's contract. Recommendation is that a contract be awarded under the same terms and conditions of DGS contract with Verizon, estimated amount of $302,000. The staff is to determine that the pricing on the state schedule to be fair, reasonable, and consistent with funds budgeted. That concludes the report.
I have a motion for approving the recommendation, this bid to the full board for approval.
So moved.
Is there a second? Jen?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. Next is a resolution from Jeff Devlin regarding the gyro Hastis upgrade. Jeff?
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Tony. For those not familiar with the terms ISDN, that's really our phone lines that keep our phone systems working to connect to the outside world. So first, I'd like to apologize to the folks in the room here. The folks online are seeing all the font in white, which is correct, but for some reason here in the room, it's pink. So we'll get that fixed next month, so I apologize. So Gyro Hastis is a software that we've been using since about 2016 was when it was first approved. And it's used primarily in the scheduling group to schedule the routes for the buses to take and the rail, of course. And then the operations group uses it for operators tracking in the routes, logging in, checking in, those kinds of things. So as I said, the resolution was first brought to the board in 2016, so it's pretty well used. We are now in the state where we desperately need to upgrade this to the current version, which is Hastis 2022/2023. We also included a couple of options in this resolution for some other software packages that the scheduling team are interested in potentially using. So this resolution would increase the total not to exceed amount from $1,422,000 and change to $3,229,106. If there are any questions, I'd like to request that this be taken to the full board. Before I release it to that, I would like to mention that the international user group for the Gyro Corp is coming to Pittsburgh next week. So I was talking with one of the folks there yesterday. They're very excited to get back to Pittsburgh. They'd actually scheduled this for 2020, and I don't know if you noticed, but something happened that shut down the world back then. So they're glad to be able to come back here next week. So with that, I respectfully request this be submitted to the full board.
Thanks, Jeff. I have a motion for this resolution.
So moved.
I'll take that as a second as well. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries, and that was the last order of business. So we conclude the meeting, the Technology Committee meeting, and conclude today's meetings. Thanks, everybody, for participating, and I'll see you a week from Friday.
Jeff,
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.